Welcome back, everyone. Me and Ross here, myself, Brian, Ross Jensen, of course, and we are coming back in to Scout the Statline.com's top 30 outfielders. We're coming back in from 30 to 21, and tonight we're going to run over 20 to 11. Other 10 outfielders that we think everybody should keep their eyes on.
Part two, baby. Part
two. But we're going to get right into it. But as always, we have our beers. I'm very stale tonight. I'm drinking a beer that I drink quite a bit, but it's not like my favorite at all. And this is the gas station's fault. They were running out of my Coors Light, so I had to get some Miller Lite. The flavor on this beer is less than appreciated on my mouth, but it's beer, and I like to do beer and baseball. Beer, baseball, bats, and stats. But to segue that into something else, Ross has got a really cool beer. Apparently, it's got this cool story, so don't let us down, Ross.
Well, now it's going to be a letdown. It's not that cool.
What do you got?
All right. So this is new to me, actually. I've never had this before. This is a collaboration beer, New Belgium Brewery and Fremont. I'm not very familiar with them. This beer is called Action Reaction, and it's a nitro barrel-aged sour stout. The blend ratio on this is 60% of barrel-aged B-Bomb, that's Fremont's beer, Imperial Winter Ale, and 40% La Folie, which is a sour brown ale. So that's where the story comes in. When I was a young man in my early 20s, I went to Fort Collins, Colorado, and visited the New Belgium Brewery. It was a great experience. If you've never been there, I recommend it. It's a lot of fun. Have you been there?
Yep, great place.
Yeah, great place. Well, when I was there, they do this great job of showing you around everywhere. And they let you taste all their beers. Back in the day when I did this, it was all free too. It was all just part of the experience. So it was a lot of fun. Well, they took us into this room that had, that's me popping this open, that had these great big wine barrels. And they had just brewed this batch of their beer, La Folie, which is 40% of this. And that was one of the most unique tasting beers that I ever had at that point in my life. A brown sour ale aged in wine barrels. Delicious. So I'm gonna kind of relive that experience with a dark winter ale.
It is dark. Wow.
Yeah.
And you like the dark beers though, don't you? You always have.
You know, I like them.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to try this, but I want to throw this out there before I even get there. If anyone that's watching this has a recommendation for a beer, I would love to hear it. And we will go get that beer and we will try it right here on the show and give you our opinion. Holy
How
cow,
was it, buddy?
It's good. That is like exactly as described.
I'm trying to figure this out. So it's a dark sour beer,
whiskey barrel flavor, sure. and it's also got a little wine barrel flavor in it. So it's very unique. But you can pick up on both of those, I think, and that might be because I'm familiar with La Folie specifically, and I've had plenty of barrel-aged beers in the past too.
Sure. I'm drinking Miller Lights. Ross brought up a great point. If you guys do have recommendations, that would be amazing.
Yeah, leave us a comment in the comment section below or reach out to us on Twitter at Ross Jensen 12 and Brian 59044.
Correct. Yeah. Okay. Well, enough of the beer talk. Let's get into what the people want. Let's get into the bats and stats category. Here we are. Okay. So we're at number 20, a draftee of 2021 selected by the Tampa Bay Rays, round number 5, pick 161, standing at 6'1", 210 pounds, 21-year-old Mason Auer. Auer. This kid, all he's done since he's been in the minors is light some stuff up. His rookie numbers were only decent. I don't want to say his rookie numbers were just insane, but he hit 265 in 34 at bats, 390 OBP, slugging percentage 324, no home runs. He did have 10 stolen bases. He got on base how many times, Ross?
He got on base a total of, he got on base 15 times.
And stole 10 bags. So rookie level was fun for him with his speed. And then that was 2021. 2022 comes along. He gets promoted to single A. He has 232 at bats in single A. He hits 293, gets on base 378% of the time. He also tags 4 home runs and has another 24 stolen bases. So the high stolen bases are still there. He gets promoted again to high A, gets another 226 at bats, keeps the average up at 288, on base percentage at 367, slugs 496. So he adds another 11 home runs and still steals another 24 bags. So his 2022 slash line looks at 289, 374, 476 with 48 stolen bases and 15 home runs in 2022. So he just lit stuff up. This guy has all of it. What do you got, Ross?
I'm interested in Mason Auer. I think his stat line is intriguing. He does have, if you look all the way down, the stat sheet is stuffed, right? He hit plenty of doubles. He hit a lot of triples. He hit home runs. He stole a ton of bases. The slash line looks pretty good. In fact, I mean, I look at this and it reminds me of like a peak Curtis Granderson, which is kind of an interesting comp. I don't think he's going to be a professional quite like that, but I really like the trend that I'm seeing from Mason Auer. Even this year, between his stats at A and high A, like they were very consistent. But the power started, he started turning a lot of those doubles and triples into home runs. That's a really promising sign. So yet again, we have the Rays seemingly hitting a home run out of the 5th round of the draft.
Yeah.
This guy is somebody you want to keep an eye on. Yeah,
no doubt. And your favorite stat, the strikeout to walk percentage is decent. 117 strikeouts to 61 walks in 492 at bats in his career in the minors. So it's not exactly what Ross is looking for, but it's right there and could uptick even better. Probably going to see AA this year.
I would like to see him be in AA to really show us what he can do. The Scout the Statline projections are still a little skeptical of him.
Yeah.
Let me run through that a little bit. Peak projections, his WRC plus peak projection, average peak projection is only 99.6, which is right around league average. He's going to have to do better than that. And I think the stats to me indicate that he could do better than that. And I hope he does. For the sake of the home run power and the stolen base power, he could be a dual threat if he's able to hit well enough. They give him a 50 hit grade, a 45 power grade, slightly below average, but around league average, and 60 for speed. And the speed might be even a tad better than that. So really interesting player. I want to see him succeed, and I hope he does.
Sure. Does he have a comp?
He does. And this one is somebody that we do know, that's currently playing in the league, Jace Peterson. Does that name ring a bell?
Yeah, it does. And I don't like it. I don't like the comp at all.
Fair enough. I mean, Jace Peterson's most of his career has not been remarkable. He's been kind of a guy in deeper leagues that occasionally might add in to fill a hole. But he does have decent power and speed. He just usually doesn't hit well enough to get a full-time gig. And that's what Scout the Statline is seeing as a risk with Mason Hour. I mean, I want to be realistic here. Not everybody succeeds going into the major leagues.
Of course.
And not everybody can. And there's a lot of failures for every success.
Of course.
So when you take the average of that, which is what we're doing, it's the average successful development, and that's what you get. So if he turns out like the average player, we're looking at a Jace Peterson, he's going to be a journeyman, you know. If we're looking at somebody that can beat that projection, you're looking at a guy that can make a difference for your fantasy team. Again, you'd be looking at the 99.99% outcome to project him to be like a superstar in the league. I don't think that's going to happen. But he's going to have to beat his projection to be a full-time regular that can make a difference on your team. And I'm hopeful for him. I hope he does.
Good stuff. I would say I am looking at Aller and tentatively trying to gobble him up as much as I possibly can at the right price, of course, because I think there is a breakout here.
Yeah, he's a guy to watch for 2023. I mean, most of these guys are guys to watch, but he's one of the people I think that can improve their stocks the most that we're going to talk about.
And he's probably going to start touching the top 100 lists on the premium websites. If 2023 goes as planned for Mason Hour, he's going to be in your top 100s.
I agree.
Moving on, we are going to jump into number 19. If you jump into his descriptions, Will Benson is going to have athletic freak all the way up and down. He's 6'5", he's 230, he's 24 years old. He's in the Cleveland Guardians organization. Ross, what do you got on Will Benson?
I mean, that was a good start. He's a big guy.
Yeah.
He's an athletic guy. He's made it all the way through the minor leagues at this point, and he's made his debut.
Yep.
He started in the minor leagues in 2016, so it was a long road. He strikes out quite a bit, but he hits home runs, he steals bases, and he's done this every stop along the way. There's some red flags with the bat, and I want to highlight that. He's never carried a particularly high batting average. In fact, this season was his best he's ever shown. Going back to 2016, his first season, he hit 209. His second season, he hit 238. 2018, and none of these are going to be included in Scout the Statline's projections. He hit 180. So where a lot of Mendoza line averages up to that point. 2019, he hit 230. Last year, he hit 206. This year, the big breakout season, he hit 279. His overall line this year as a 24-year-old in AAA was 279 batting average, 426 on-base percentage, and 522 slugging percentage. 17 home runs and 16 stolen bases in 401 plate appearances. That's a great stat line by itself.
Yep.
But in tandem with all the other ones, I'm concerned how much of that was carried by luck this season. When you have a bunch of batting averages around, I mean, a bunch, we're talking about most of his career.
5 years worth.
1,500 plate appearances, eyeballing it, 1,500 plate appearances, and he's batting around 200.
Yep.
That's It's not what you want to see. It just makes me wonder if that 279 is really buoyed by some luck this year. Looking through his projections, which the projections don't see that, but they do see him batting around the Mendoza line. 203 is his projected peak batting average, but
Ouch.
21 home runs and 13 stolen bases. He walks at a pretty healthy rate, along with all the strikeouts that he piles up. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that I'm not buying it. I'm not buying the breakout because of all the history that's behind it. So I'm a little more skeptical. If it's a legit breakout, this guy could be really good ad. Could be a really good ad, but I'm skeptical.
One year that I want to look at is 2018. So in 2018, he was in full A ball, had 416 at bats. He struck out 152 times, right? He still walked 82 times. So his average was 180 and his on base was 324. That is a massive gap.
Yeah.
Like huge, which tells me he also hit 22 home runs that year. But that also tells me, dude, just swing the bat. You can tell he's just sitting on something to come across the plate. And if it doesn't come, screw it. I'll either strike out or walk. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Waiting for his pitch, which I'm not opposed to.
Yeah.
But you gotta be able to hit the ball a little bit more than just every now and then hitting a home run.
Yeah.
Well, I could be wrong about this, what I'm about to say, but I'm going to go ahead and say it anyway. And if anyone disagrees with me, let me know in the comments. How many people do you know that have had successful careers being Mendoza line hitters? I mean, just in general, Mendoza line hitters, how many of those guys actually have successful careers, get enough playing time, whatever it might be? Can you think of anyone?
I'll give you one, and it's somebody that you really
Adam
like
Dunn?
and I really dislike.
Joey Gallo?
Yes, Joey Gallo.
Are those the only guys?
Yeah.
Schwarber maybe like this year?
Yeah.
But there's a difference here. While Will Benson is very intriguing with his power and his speed potential, he doesn't have 40 home run power like Joey Gallo.
Right. Yeah.
Like Adam Dunn. You know, those guys got by on big time power.
Yeah, just jacking it all over the place. Yeah.
In Joey Gallo's case, he was a really athletic guy too, or he is a really athletic guy.
I'd like to see somebody to learn how to do things. He already had the power. He already had the stolen bases. And now this year, he learned how to hit. That could be intriguing to me. But once again, that's what I'm saying. It's intriguing. I'm not saying go get him. He's my favorite player. You have to have him. He's intriguing.
Between him and Mason Hour is the lower ranked Scout the Statline prospect. Who would you take? And he's ranked higher, I think, by most analysts out there. Will Benson is. He's the big guy. You know, he's got the power. He's probably got similar speed overall as Hour. But the numbers don't shine through to me like they do with Hour.
Yeah. I'm taking Hour, and I'm not even thinking about it.
All right.
Just because of all the stats that we went through already. And because of Will Benson.
With Brian, now's your chance to go get Will Benson.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. That's Will Benson, folks. All right, let's jump into number 18, Gabriel Gonzalez. He's a 5'10", 165, 18-year-old in single A affiliate for the Seattle Mariners. And so his DSL stats, he had 188 at bats in 2021. He averaged 287, on base percentage at 371, slugged 521, had 7 home runs, 9 stolen bases, struck out 36 times, walked 21 times. Everything looks fantastic. Then comes 2022. He goes back to rookie ball, but in the States. He has 126 at bats. That's 357, a 421 on base percentage, and a 548 slugging percentage. 5 home runs, 5 stolen bases, strikeout 21, walks 8, instantly promoted to single A, 126 at bats there. Still bats 286. He's 18 years old, folks. He's 18 years old, sitting in A ball, and probably didn't need to be there for another at least year. And he's already there, and he's already showcasing his skills. Hit another 2 home runs, stole another 4 bags. What do you think, Ross?
This is a potential big breakout for 2023. Yeah. Gabriel Gonzalez, as you mentioned, he's still just 18 years old.
Yeah.
So to show the success that he has and in growing power all the way up to single A, and in single A, his numbers took a drop a little bit, but they weren't bad. They were still pretty solid. He was still showing that he can hit that kind of pitching. There's not that many players that can do that kind of thing. So this is a guy that's, if everything goes favorably for him, he could get a cup of coffee at the end of his 20-year-old season. That wouldn't be out of the question. Not a lot of players get to do that. Again, that's projecting that everything goes well. There's a lot of unforeseen issues that he could face. Maybe he struggles next year with AA pitching or high A or whatever it might be. But he's on a really good trajectory. Big potential breakout prospect for 2023. I'm all on board. I love that he doesn't strike out that much. I love that he can hit. He can hit at every level. To me, he demonstrates he's one of the better hitters in the low minor leagues right now. And that carries a lot of weight. He is growing in power, I think. He's not going to have a ton of speed, but a little bit. So this is definitely a guy to go after. I mean, you can't always land the Jackson Chorios, but you can probably get the Gabriel Gonzalez's.
Yeah. So that's probably my next point. He'll be 19 January 4 of 2023. So in his 19-year-old season, he'll be in high A. He's only 5'10", 165 pounds. Once again, he's only 19 years old. He's got plenty of time to build on the strength, to build on the body. I do worry about his body type. That's probably the only thing I'm worried about. Everything else screams he's going to be really talented.
So he draws a comp to Jackie Brandt, who played the 50s and 60s. And Jackie Brandt didn't have a stellar career, but it was a solid career. Career 262 hitter with a 412 slugging percentage. I think that Gabriel Gonzalez will exceed that. But as I said, he was a major league starter for, it looks like, 7 years in his career, which is notable.
Mm-hmm. We're going to jump into somebody that I'm really fond of. And it didn't happen until the end of the year of 2022 that I really was like, how did I miss this? What's going on here? And this is a guy from Honolulu, Hawaii. His name is Shane Sasaki. He was drafted in the 3rd round, number 99 overall, to the Tampa Bay Rays. Of course, again, you're going to see this a lot. The Tampa Bay Rays are just amazing. But he's 22 years old. And I actually want Ross to talk about Shane Sasaki a little bit because I know the numbers, or I really like the numbers. But Ross, I want you to dive into this one.
All right. Shane Sasaki, 6 foot, 165 pound prospect within the Rays organization. was a 3rd-round pick in 2019 out of Hawaii. He came in 2019 and debuted with the rookie level team. Didn't show much there, but it was a very small sample size. He only got 47 plate appearances. Only hit 182 that year. Last year, 2021, he repeated rookie level, as you might expect after only getting 47 plate appearances in 2019. But 144 plate appearances. Overall, he hit 290 with a 382 OBP and a 403 slugging percentage. 2 home runs on the season, not a lot of over the fence power, but 22 stolen bases. In 2022, this season, he was moved up to single A. In 402 plate appearances, he hit 324 with a 410 OBP and a 497 slugging percentage, growing into some power. He hit 9 home runs, so substantially increased his power output. But really, I think that a lot of that came from the doubles. He hit 27 doubles on the season versus only 4 in 2021. So clearly he's hitting the ball harder.
And showcasing that speed.
And the speed on the season, he stole 47 bases. So a lot of speed from Shane Sasaki. And are you starting to feel like there's a prototype player for the Rays? Most of these guys, and this is interesting from an organization that is very data-driven, they like guys that can hit. They don't have to be the best hitters in the world. If they are, great, like a Wander Franco, great. But they're not necessarily looking for that. They're looking for a nice combination between hitting, getting on base, and
speed.
Guys that have speed.
Speed. Lots of speed in the Rays organization. I mean, lots. You just compile. We'll use Sasaki as an example. Just use Sasaki and Vidal Brujan. Those are the 2 fastest guys in the minor leagues.
And it's very different from the Moneyball approach of, we don't steal bases. We don't care if you're fast. We just want guys that can get on base. It's very different, but it's been equally successful. And I think this is the type of organization that has had a lot of success using data to their advantage. And I think they're signaling something with this.
Yeah. So maybe, I guess I never really thought about this at all. With what we're seeing with Tampa Bay, maybe they have a green light a little bit more than other organizations in the minors of stealing bases, because we're going to come back to a lot of these things, bouncing around the league and stuff like that. And I think we've already showcased quite a few Rays players already that have a lot of speed. Maybe they just have the green light in the minors.
I think it's less of that and more that they just get fast players.
That's what they want.
Fast.
Yeah.
You're going to like this. And we've touched on this before. We've talked about this. Shane Sasaki gets a comp to Cameron Maybin.
I love Cameron Maybin.
He was a very top-end prospect. I don't think his career quite played out as grandly as expected, but he did have a decent career, stuck around for quite a while.
Shane Sasaki, I was ignorant. I was 100% ignorant until the trail end of 2022, and I believe it was Scout the Statline that I looked him up, and he was like number 20 or something like that. And I was like, who is this? I don't remember this guy's name. Looked him up. There it was, the stats, the 324 average, the 410 on base percentage, the 497 slugging, 47 stolen bases in 2022. And I was like, well, let's dig a little bit deeper, and found that he is my hottest outfielder prospect that I can think of. He's not my favorite. He's my hottest. He's who I want to go get no matter what in every single dynasty league.
Good.
Yeah.
Get your Sasaki.
Give me another shot of Suzuki. Let's go on to our next prospect. His name is Tyler Gentry. He got drafted in 2020 out of Alabama in the 3rd round, pick 76 overall. The stat lines are all there. He's 6'2". He's 210. He's got everything, that you really want to build upon in a prospect. Ross, will you go ahead and dive into the numbers just a little bit? And I'll come back in on this one because I'm a little bit surprised of what's going on with this one.
Yeah, Tyler Gentry from the University of Alabama. This is a good one to speculate on. Was he drafted too low?
Yeah.
Did other teams whiff on this guy? So in 2019, going back to his first year with Alabama anyway, he hit 310 with a 378 OBP and a 552 slugging percentage, 13 home runs on that season. Wasn't mind-blowing, but it was a pretty good season, pretty good debut as a collegiate athlete. He was 20 years old at that time. As a 21-year-old at Alabama, this is 2020, the shortened season. We didn't get to see his full capabilities, but the beginning was very promising. He was hitting 429 with a 554 OBP and a 750 slugging percentage. This might have been his breakout right here. This is what could have propelled him up draft boards.
Yeah.
The season was cut short, and I think people were just like, he might have just been on a hot streak. He had a 1304 OPS that season. So he ended up going 3rd round. His debut season in 2021, they put him all the way to high A, which is pretty aggressive for a guy first making his debut into professional baseball. He struggled a little bit, not bad, but 259 batting average, 395 OBP, and a 449 slugging percentage. And then, of course, this year was him really showcasing what he can do. Again, he repeated a little bit at high A and moved up to double A. Between both levels, he was hitting the ball really well. Aggregate on the season, 326 batting average, 422 OBP, and a 542 slugging percentage. His power output increased through the season, which sets him up really nicely for next season, where he should get some time at triple A, and he'll probably start at double A, maybe triple A if they want to get aggressive with him. Should get a cup of coffee if all things go right for him. So if he's still hitting the ball well, I mean, we should see him up in the major leagues next season.
Yep. So this is what I wanted to come back to. First off, he's a Royal. I think the wave of youth is gonna plow through the Kansas City Royals starting. Well, it already started last year with Witt and Pasquantino, but then you have players like Gentry, and there's going to be 5 or 6 other players that we talk about through second base, third base, and just a couple other positions that we're going to start talking about the Royals and this push of youth. And Tyler Gentry should be at the top of this list. 2020 sucked for this guy. And there's going to be a handful of other guys that we talk about that 2020 sucked for him, because you're right. He got drafted in the 3rd round. He probably should have been a 1st round pick. So he is a little bit old, not his fault. As you stated, double A in 23 and triple A in 23. He might even skip triple A and go straight to the pros in 2023. That's what I believe. His stats are there. He has a great strikeout percentage, a great walk percentage. The power's there. He does have he had 10 stolen bases in 2022. I don't think that's there. I don't think he's going to have much of speed, but I think the power's there. And I really like Tyler Gentry. And I think he's going to be a sleeper in everybody's league. So if you could go get Tyler Gentry at a really, really decent price, yeah, absolutely. Moving on, we are going to be jumping into a 21-year-old in the New York Yankees affiliates. His name is Everson Pereira. He's a center fielder, 6 foot tall, 191 pounds, 21 years old. He is out of Venezuela. Ross, run through these stats on this one.
Everson Pereira, I think coming into this season, I thought he was one of the best power hitters in the minor leagues. And I'm going to say that there's a little bit of whispers from our Andy Page's evaluation going on here with Pereira, because there's a lot of similarities. Both of them last season were in the low minors. This season they moved up into the mid minors, the high minors. They got taste at AA. They came into this season for me being some of the top power hitters. And I'm not sure that I hold them in as high of a regard after this season, but the power is still there. There's no doubt about it. And they both had much better second halves. So let me walk through it. Pereira made his debut in 2018. Not too much notable between his first couple seasons. But where things really started getting interesting was in 2021. He debuted in the low minors, but spent most of his time at high A. Overall on the season, I should read both of these stat lines. So at single A, 20-year-old, he hit 361 with a 446 OBP and a 667 slugging percentage. So he was on fire starting the season. He moved up. The batting average didn't quite hold up where most of his plate appearances were coming at in high A. He hit 259, but the power stayed there. So while his batting average and his OBP took a dip that were pretty commensurate with each other from his previous stop, he slugged 676 and hit 14 home runs in just 127 plate appearances. That was tremendous power.
Yeah.
Tremendous power. So he finished the season aggregate batting 303 with a 398 OBP and a 686 slugging percentage. So while it was like half a season worth of plate appearances, that's impressive. And I was really thinking this guy has got a ton of power. And he really might. But this season, his numbers did take a dip comparatively. He started again repeating high A. Compared to last year, the power wasn't quite as good, but he did improve. And in some of the hitting stats, he hit 274 instead of 259. His OBP was the same. And they moved him up to double A, where he hit 283 with a 342 OBP and a 504 slugging percentage. So overall in the season, 277 batting average, 350 OBP, 469 slugging percentage, 14 home runs in 401 at-bats, 448 plate appearances. Interestingly enough, he stole more bases this year. So now you kind of have to ask the question, is this guy a little bit more than just a power hitter? I don't know about that. I think it's going to hinge on the power. Strikeouts were a little high, and they were a little high last year as well. But overall, he's projecting to be more of a power hitter than anything. So if we look at his peak projections, he's projected to hit 237 with a 316 OBP and a 426 slugging percentage, 23 home runs.
Does he have a comp?
Yes, you're going to like this one. Yasiel Puig.
Oh, Puig. Puig was my guy, man. I loved Yasiel Puig.
I don't think he's quite the physical specimen that Puig was, But Puig
Not
is a
even
really
close.
good example of projection and
Yeah.
things not quite always going to plan, right?
Yeah. Nothing ever went to plan with Puig.
He's one that I'm more at this point in watch and see mode for next year. I think I would have
Yeah.
been mostly was trying to acquire this guy preseason last year or last year 2021. And at this point I wouldn't be trying to get rid of him necessarily, but I'm in wait and see. So in leagues where I have not added him, I'm waiting to see what he does next year before I get too hot on my pursuit.
For sure. I think I agree with that. I
Yeah.
think that's a good take. I think it's somebody that you want to keep a very watchful eye on just to make sure that the explosion's not happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I like it. Moving on. George Valera, and he is with the Cleveland Guardians. Age 22, he will be 22 all year long. His birthday is not till 11/13. So we're going to see a 22-year-old George Valera probably sitting in AAA all of next year. Well, unless they give him to the show. Some things on Valera. It has been well documented for 3+ years that he has got the best baseball swing on the planet. It's just this smooth, perfect, she's gone swing. The thing that makes me really mad about that is it hasn't translated perfectly onto the baseball field itself. He has got millions of backers on him saying he is going to be so gosh darn good. He's going to be amazing. He's going to have the best hit tool on the planet. Ross, tell me where the hit tool is, because it doesn't show up.
I think you're egging me on to wax poetic about stats over scouting.
Yeah. It is, you know what I'm talking about.
I do. I remember reading about Valera was the closest to like a Juan Soto type of prospect when he was first coming into the league, and clearly has not been the case. He pales in comparison to somebody like a Soto who was in the major leagues, becoming one of the best players by the time he was George Valera's age now. So I would say that this is somebody that expectations should be reset a little bit with. I still think he's probably got a pretty promising future, but I'm not thinking he's going to be a superstar or anything like that. Right now, so you asked about his hit tool. And the scout grade equivalency for George Valera is a 50, which is major league average. And most of that is because his batting average lags behind. When you look at his projections, he does have pretty good on base skills, usually carries a pretty decent OBP, but that batting average can tend to be a problem. And you see that in his stats dating back to at least to 2019. So in 2019, he had 217, which was probably the big red flag. Had a nice rebound in 2021, made it all the way up to AA. He hit 260, and he had a 505 slugging percentage that season. This year across high minor leagues, he hit 250 with a 353 OBP and a 463 slugging percentage. Those are pretty solid numbers for a 21-year-old. Struck out 145 times, which is a lot of strikeouts. He walked 74 times. He still put together a pretty solid season, but still only a 250 batting average.
Yep.
I know that this guy is dropping on some analyst list that I'd probably be in that camp a little bit.
Yep.
I mean, once you add in pitchers, like he's probably in the 70 range for me personally. But I think he's still an interesting prospect, and I think he'll have at least a helpful career in some capacity.
I ate breakfast thinking about George Valera. Like this guy is going to be unbelievable. And then 2018 happened. He had 18 at bats, 333. Whatever. It was 18 at bats, no big deal. 2019 came along. He hit 217. I was like, he's a kid. No big deal. 2020 happened. Is what it is. He's 19 at the time. 2021, he hits 260. 2022, he hits 250. Where's my hope? We're talking about all these guys that can hit 330, 306, 290. 280 would be fine. Why is George Valera still sitting, even in a stat-based economy at Scout the Statline? We don't care about anything else other than stats. How in the hell is he still this high?
Well, I think the answer is he's 21 and he's in AAA.
Yeah.
He's young, Yeah. He's young for the level. So there is still some promise there that he can grow in those statistical categories. And I think he will. I don't think he's ever going to be a high average hitter at this point. I think we know what he is. And I say we know what he is. And I'm going to personally say that I've gone from thinking George Valera was the best to thinking I don't want to have anything to do with this guy, to the beginning of this season. And Brian, you know this, to being like, maybe I'm missing something. I should be more interested in George Valera, to more near the end of the season being like, I'm over it again. So I've gone back and forth a lot with this guy. That said, I think we kind of know what he is. He's not going to hit for high average. He's going to hit a decent amount of bombs. He's going to get on base at a decent clip. And hopefully the strikeouts don't totally ruin his career.
I don't understand it. Well, like you said, he's so young in AAA that's why Scout the Statline is bringing him up. But I am telling everybody right now, if you own him, hold him. If you don't own him, I wouldn't go get him right now.
You're right. I think he's a good hold. I don't see him as being a sell necessarily. Unless your expectation of Valera is much higher than Cole Calhoun.
Let's jump into our next one. And this is going to be Jace Avina. And he is a single A product out of the Milwaukee Brewers affiliates. He is 19 years old. He is 6'2", 180 pounds. He was drafted in the 14th round, 417th overall. Ross, I am going to need your help on this one, and tell me why Jace Avina is even on this list.
Okay, so Jace Avina debuted this season with the Brewers. He started at rookie level. He hit 294 with a 436 OBP and a 630 slugging percentage, 10 home runs. He was moved up to single A, so pretty decent for a 19-year-old. There, he hit 245 with a 336 OBP and a 471 slugging percentage. Numbers predictably took a dip in that after that promotion. Overall in the season, he hit 272 with a 392 OBP and a 557 slugging percentage. You ask why he's on here. So I'm going to be very straightforward and tell you it's because he has some of the best projected power in the minor leagues according to Scout the Statline. At peak, he projects for 36 home runs per 600 plate appearances. And he grades out with 75 power, the max being 80 on that 20/80 scale. So he nearly is maxing at that power. Few, if any, minor leaguers are eclipsing that. Those are the positives. It's only 268 plate appearances. It's a small sample. And Jay Savina strikes out a ton. So I'm putting a huge red flag next to this guy, and I'm saying this is not a guy that you should be actively going to try to get right now. At least until you know that he's going to be able to hit with the kind of power that he's hitting with right now at higher levels. If he's striking out as much as he is showing, 35%, I don't think it's going to translate.
Sure.
If he's hitting like 40 bombs next year and striking out at 35%, he's at AA, maybe you start paying attention to it. But right now, no, I would not put this guy in my personal top 30 even.
Sure. I agree with that take. I am very interested, though. He was drafted in 2021. He didn't play in 21, but they got him all the way up to single A in 22. He's only 19 years old. I need to see more. And I don't want to even tell anybody to go after him. I don't even want to tell anybody to watch him at this point.
Well, I personally think he's somebody that you want to watch. Yeah, I don't think he's somebody to go get right now. I don't think he's somebody to add.
Yeah.
I just need to see, I need to see some confirmation.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to call it. That's typically what I say about these kind of guys is like, I need confirmation that they are the player that they are masquerading as right now. And with him, red flag number one is the strikeout rate, right?
We need more.
Number two is the small sample.
Yeah, you just need more.
Need to see more.
Yep.
And without that, I'm saying it's a no-go zone for me.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
Let's jump into the next one. And the next one I'd like to run through on. There was this explosion when the Yankees signed Jason Dominguez. And that's Jasson Dominguez. When they signed him out of the Dominican Republic, it was like Joe DiMaggio was coming back on the scene. Like, hey, he's here. We don't have anything else to worry about. Jason Dominguez is going to save the day.
Did he get Mickey Mantle comps? I seem to recall that.
Maybe that's what it was. Maybe it was Mickey Mantle's coming back. Like, he's reincarnated. And the greatness is back in New York Stadium. And he hasn't even swung the bat yet. It was this just flood of the greatest prospect that has ever lived. And this is not Jason's fault. This is media's fault. And I've said this multiple times. This was 1,000,000% the New York bias that Jason Dominguez is the greatest prospect, because he's a damn good prospect. But man, what they did to him, like, he was never going to live up to what they said he was going to do. So I want to run through his stats. 2021 stats. He sat at the rookie level for 20 at bats. He only hit 200. So let's just flush that out of the system. But then he went to single A ball. He had 186 at bats. He had 258, 346, 398 slugging, 5 home runs, 7 stolen bases. Like, this is a really good start to a career. This is really what you want to see in single A ball at 18 years old. But this is where I get mad again, is you had newspaper articles stating that Jason Dominguez hit 258, and it was the best 258 that anybody had ever seen. And these 5 home runs, man, they still haven't landed yet. And it's 3 years later. It was just this buildup of, what are you talking about? And then 2022 comes around. He went to 3 different affiliates in 2022. He stayed in single A for 275 at bats, and then he went to A plus for 157. And he did get promoted to double A, which that's awesome on him. So single A, he batted 265, high A 306. So like he's making really good trends. He's doing everything right. Double A, he only had 19 at bats and hit 105, which is, he's 19 years old. He's fine. It's okay. But I have this bad taste in my mouth about what they had written this player up to be. Do you understand what I'm talking about, Ross?
Oh, yeah. So he was signed in 2019 as a 16-year-old.
Okay.
And his nickname is the Martian.
That's right. Because he's out of this world.
Because he's out of this world. And I revel in these guys that are like so uber hyped and then they face plant.
Mm-hmm.
And Jason Dominguez to me was one of those guys.
Yeah.
But then I saw his face and I'm a believer. I mean, he's somebody that totally changed my mind.
Yeah.
This season, he's changed my mind.
Yeah.
Last season, I was like, I love it. He sucks. And this season, 273, 376, 461 as a 19-year-old, making his way up to double A. Very small time at double A, but those are pretty solid numbers. 16 home runs, 37 stolen bases. He can do it all. He's the Martian. He's unbelievable. But if we're getting real and we're diving into the stats, the strikeout rate is still a little elevated. We're talking about a 19-year-old. I don't think
it's more than a little. It's way too high.
Well, I'm not going to say it's way too high. It's elevated. It's elevated a little bit. He was at.
We're over 25.
It was 27% this year, and high 8 was down to 18%. So overall, 24%. I'm okay with it because he's young and he's making his way through the major leagues. This guy could debut possibly next season. Probably.
I hope not.
24 as a 21-year-old. That's probably more likely. I think this guy is going to turn out to be a do-it-all talent.
Oh.
Is he going to be a super duper star? That I don't know.
Yeah.
He draws a comp to Grady Sizemore, which I think is
that's a good one.
Yeah. Grady Sizemore was a similar kind of player, hit with power, had speed, was a really good prospect coming up as well. So, I'm interested to see how that turns out. Yeah, I've changed my perspective on Jason Dominguez.
I 100% agree, and I hate it. And that's why I said all this stuff, is I actually think he's really, really good. And he's going to be really, really, really good. I just hated the explosion on it. I really did. I hated the explosion. I love that comp of Grady Sizemore. I think that is spot on, and I think that's perfect. Let's go into number 11. Ladies and gentlemen, here we go. We are at number 11. Mr. Colton Cowser. He's a 22-year-old. He's in AAA for the Baltimore Orioles. He was a first rounder in 2021, pick number 5 overall. Came out of Sam Houston College. Colton Cowser is a baseball player. That is the best way that I can explain Colton Cowser.
So he played with Sam Houston State, a relatively small school, in 2019. He hit 361 with a 450 OBP and a 602 slugging percentage. That was him as a freshman. That's a pretty good debut as a freshman.
Yeah.
Right there, that guy would be on my radar, 7 home runs and 9 stolen bases on that season. I think that kind of gets at the type of player he is as a professional too. 2020, the shortened season, nothing notable here. Only 66 plate appearances, but 255, 379, 364 triple slash. So that doesn't by itself mean a lot. Last season, 2021, he hit 374 with a 490 OBP and a 680 slugging percentage, 16 home runs and 17 stolen bases. Again, like nice power speed combo, more walks than strikeouts. So his stats were looking a lot more like his freshman season stats, and an improvement on that, in fact. So then he debuted as a pro in his small sample in the low minors, granted, at 21 years old, but very similar to his college stats. He hit 375 with a 490 OBP and a 492 slugging percentage. So the power was a little bit lower. 2 home runs and 7 stolen bases. This year, most of his season came in the high minors.
Yeah, it did.
AA and AAA, but he spent half a season at high A, which was actually his worst statistical production. At high A, it was only 258, 385, 411, only 4 home runs, and a surprising 16 stolen bases. You might see those pop more in the low minors, though. That doesn't surprise me too much. And then AA, all of a sudden, boom, 341, 469, 568. That's looking more like his college days again, right? 10 home runs and only 2 stolen bases. And then he went up to AAA, had some struggles there, 219, 339, 429 slugging percentage. Overall in the season, 278 batting average, 406 OBP, 469 slugging percentage, 19 home runs, and 18 stolen bases. So on the season, really good, solid numbers across the board. We're seeing a couple things here. One, I think he's a little streaky. I think the numbers are suggesting he's streaky. And there's a strikeout rate concern. Struck out 174 times in his 626 plate appearances. That's a little high. But the home run and the stolen base stats are really consistent from college to professional career. So I think that that's going to be something that can be relied upon. He is going to have to do something about the strikeouts. His season overall strikeout rate was about 28%. That's a little high.
Comp. What do you got for comp?
Chase Headley. Well, Chase Headley had this great season in 2012 where he hit 31 home runs with 115 RBIs and was 5th in the MVP voting. That's pretty good. Won a Gold Glove that season too. So just
big
career year.
I like Colton Cowser a lot. Like I say, he's got the build already. He's only 22 years old, 6'3", 195. Colton Cowser. Can he see the major leagues this year?
In 2023?
Yes.
Absolutely.
So
he
too.
will be in the major leagues in 2023, in my opinion.
I think he's starting there.
I don't know about starting, but he'll be there.
Yeah, I just don't see any blocks or anything like that. I think Cowser will be – he's going to be in one of the corner outfield spots starting the year. Obviously, he needs a big spring training, but you heard it here first. Cowser's going to be it.
All right, man. All right.
But there it is. There is another top 10.
Part 2 of the top 30.